Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Jen, and welcome to Devilish Bookworms, the podcast.
where we read and review books and release episodes every Tuesday.
This week we have My Dear Henry, a Jekyll and Hyde remix by Kalynn Bayron.
Yay! Gabriel Utterson is a 17-year-old living in 1885 London. When his father sends him to medical school, he has every intention of becoming a doctor, even though society would never accept a black doctor. His chances are further complicated when he falls in love with another male student. When his life begins to unravel, Utterson must face the reality that being true to himself may cause him to lose everything that he holds dear. In this Jekyll and Hyde remix, we find out just how far some are willing to go to break the ties that bind.
This week's trigger warnings will have historically accurate depictions of racism and homophobia, misogyny, physical violence, non consensual touching, attempted sexual assault, suicidal ideation, some gore, which include descriptions of a corpse and descriptions of injuries. I also want to add two, which are death of a loved one, a grandmother, and abuse by a parent.
Yeah, it's not a fun, it's a good book, but it's not necessarily a warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, definitely not warm and fuzzy in the least bit.
No. Um, I like how she says it's a remix versus a retelling. Because it's like she took the story and like made it hers.
It was definitely interesting. I mean, obviously there are the bones of the entire structure of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but at the same time, remix is definitely a great way to describe it versus retelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This book first caught my eye with that cover because the cover is gorgeous. It's it made me feel the Jekyll and Hyde before I even like cracked open the book.
I think the one thing that kind of like attracted me to this was the fact that there was a POC as a main character, which for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, obviously any of the retellings, that is not the case. So it was actually nice to see something outside of the ordinary.
Yeah. Part of what attracted me to the book was in high school, the only book that I actually read that I was assigned cover to cover was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I didn't even read Frankenstein cover to cover until after I was out of school.
Really?
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm intrigued.
Well, so they assigned plenty good books, you know what I mean? Like I had no problems with the actual books, but you know how like I hate being told what to do. So like when they assigned it to me, I was like, no, I'm not gonna read that. Um, but Jekyll and Hyde I did read. um, so I loved that. But yes, the fact that it is, what I would assume would be the main character because he's the only person on the cover, um, is a black main character in a Jekyll and Hyde remix. I was down.
Hell yeah.
So you have like the smoke that adds to the mystery and that beautiful like emerald color behind him and all of the candles. It's very much I think the book is set in 1885 and it very much gave me that feel.
It really did. You got all the grungy and kind of old school vibes. And oh, the candles in the corner. Just a perfect touch.
Mm-hmm. Did you see that dedication, by the way?
No, and here's why I didn't see it. Because when you open Kindle books, it automatically jumps you to like the epilogue or the first chapter.
It's a setting. You can turn it off.
I haven't been able to find it. I literally have not been able to find it. And like it's been pissing me off because I'm like, what about the maps? What about the dedication? What about the author notes? What about the content warnings? It's so fucking annoying. So usually I scroll backwards, but this time I didn't. And now I'm sad. So Please enlighten me.
Oh, so oh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't even know how I figured out that there was a setting to turn that off. I think I was like messing around because I wanted to go to the cover. I think of the last podcast episode. I wanted to go back to the cover and I saw the option and I was like, "Oh, yeah." Like click. Um so the dedication says this story is for everyone who has ever wondered if you are enough, just as you are. The answer is yes.
Hmm.
I thought it was really sweet.
That is sweet. I do like that.
One of the trigger warnings, the very first one, says historically accurate depictions of racism and homophobia, and it's very prevalent throughout the book. You feel, and I'm not saying that I felt what the main character was saying. Obviously, I can't, but I think that the author did a very good job of feeling of conveying the constant reminder of your quote unquote place in society.
Mm.
And so essentially, Gabriel is his father went to school with this guy who is the gentleman who, well, gentleman, I use that term loosely, who would be teaching Gabriel. And so Gabriel goes to this medical school, and the teacher right off the bat is like, listen, you're only good for two things. And one of them is like being an undertaker or, doing autopsies, whatever. It's very apparent from the beginning of the story that um, this is not a remix or a retelling where things are integrated. It's very much white people are superior, and then the black people are kind of shoved underfoot. And the author, there were a few sentences in that kind of caught me not off guard. They were just beautifully done. Well, not even beautifully done because they were kind of awful. But so like the first time he meets this guy, like I kind of thought that he was gonna be kind of a mentor or whatever, and no, he says all of this to say that I feel some kind of affection for your father in the way one does for a beloved pet or a prized racehorse. And when I say my like blood pressure spiked.
Yeah, it does make you uncomfortable to hear some of the things that are said. But as you said, they're historically accurate. So
Mm.
it took me a moment to kind of like be like, no, Jen, stop. This was what they said. You can't get upset for this. Like, and that
Oh no, you can get upset for it. I just real quick, I have to say it every single time. If anyone said anything like that to you, I would fucking skin them alive.
it's not the fact that like I know I can get upset, but at the same time, I don't want to get upset for something that did happen. Obviously, like it's still around, but it's different when it's something that you're just reading versus something that's directed totally towards you. And so I was trying not to take it as personally as I started to. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. But then I was like, no, it's literally what would have happened in those days. So I can't really be upset for her setting the
Mm-hmm.
accurate scene. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say some of it did really like irk me because of, she did a beautiful job writing it, but it's just like it does like kind of like put that taste in your mouth when you do hear it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which frankly, it should. It should because it's deplorable. And I think that what the things that the subject matter is awful, but it should be awful because it is. It should make you uncomfortable.
Right, absolutely.
Well,
But
it shouldn't make you uncomfortable. It should make me uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
no, it should make everybody uncomfortable.
Facts. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
So then he falls in love with Henry, and I it just made me so happy. But then of course these poor boys had that on top of it, it was like,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
bad enough to be black in that type of society, but then to be gay on top of it. And I felt so bad for both of them because Henry's father was basically in the mentality of like, you can work on this and you can be cured type of situation. And Gabriel is more along the lines of, no, it's okay. Like, you're allowed to love whomever you want to love, which is how it should be. But we all know
Mm-hmm.
society just isn't like that. So these boys were fitting, like, or well, I shouldn't even say boys. These men were,
Well, they were 17, so either one.
yeah, but they're fighting a literal uphill battle. Like, there's no winning that and any way that you can see in that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Even the fact like Gabriel did not want to be a doctor. He wanted to be a lawyer, but it wasn't allowed. There was no ability to become a lawyer. You were either, as you said, an undertaker or you're doing autopsies. Like, that's all you're good enough for. So
Mm-hmm.
stupid.
Yeah. um I want to talk about for a second. I loved the fact that the author put in there two drastically different fathers. And I feel like they were both incredibly strong and both incredibly they both handle things very, very differently, right? And you and I had the conversation before where there's a different kind of strength in handling things differently. And so Henry's father handles things by speaking up and by talking back and by putting his foot down and stuff. Which at first I thought was admirable, and then afterwards I was like, my opinion changed. but but then uh Gabriel's father had kind of the stay quiet, stay safe mentality, which again also takes an incredible amount of strength and an incredible amount of courage. I like that she put them both because they're both very real reactions to things that are scary and difficult. We had that same, what was that one book? Um, the Hades and Persephone one that we read by Shanguyomi.
Oh, Masquerade.
Masquerade, that one. Because the mother in the beginning of that book has had kind of the same
Mm, yeah.
mentality of, if you stay quiet, you stay safe.
Yeah.
I like
And
that the dynamic there.
honestly, I think that's kind of like the difference between our fathers is because your father is more like rough them up and tough them up and knock them out type of deal. And my dad's like, no, no, peace will get you further than your mouth will. And and I'm just like, but dad, like my
Mm.
my
And then
mouth
here
doesn't
you
want to
come
shut
along.
up. I know my mouth doesn't want to shut up, but at certain times I've learned that shutting my mouth is for the best. Sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. I think it's definitely a case by case basis, but I think we I like the fact that though that she included both kind of characters, because I'm going to repeat myself by just saying that it's very real.
You're absolutely right though, because it's a different battleground for both sides. And I think you were really accurate with by saying like it takes a strong person to do either of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, no, I think it was a good testament of how each of their characters would actually turn out as well.
Yeah. What traits Gabriel got from his father and how it affected his personality, and how Henry with his.
Yeah, because so obviously Gabriel was more like he was very much upfront and direct with his feelings and what he wanted. And Henry was obviously the more reserved one. He was a recluse. Like he's gonna hide away from all of his feelings. He's never gonna say anything, and he's just gonna become a shell. And sometimes that's okay. And you've got to do you, but the difference in both of the characters was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
It pulled me more into the story. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. And all of the characters were very like flushed out. Like they all had distinct personalities, and you could see the growth, like the arc in each of the characters. You can understand, like they were very real, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I thought she did an incredible job of writing them.
Oh, for sure. Like Miss Laurie, like she was sweet, she was sassy, but at the same time, like she became such a motherly figure after being like such a, I won't say ruthless, but she was kind of very stern in the beginning. But
Mm-hmm.
the way that her character ended up being, she ended up being one of my favorites because she actually just became so like loving and just that what Henry needed, or not Henry, what Gabriel needed at the time frame. So it was really nice.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about the way that Kalynn wrote her characters was that even that character, even Ms. Laurie, um, the she was just a supporting character, right? But she still had a background. Like we still got to see a little bit about her, and it flowed with the story, and it didn't feel like superfluous information. It felt like something that he acknowledged through his, day to day. And I thought it was so cool the way that she kind of blended that in.
Yeah.
I think my favorite character out of the whole book is Henry's mom.
Okay.
Because Henry's
Interesting.
mom, she was just so accepting, and so she was who I wish everyone had in their life. She was like, that is
Mm.
my son, and it doesn't matter what shade his skin is. It doesn't matter who he loves. It doesn't matter. What matters is that he's happy and that he's healthy and that he's okay. I loved
Yeah,
her.
yeah, she was really great, even with the subtle like acknowledgments, you know,
And she
because
was
his
strong.
yeah, uh I give you a lot of props for having her as your favorite. Because although I did love Miss Laurie, Henry's mother was really awesome. Mr. Crew, not so much.
Mm-hmm. We're not gonna go there. I have thoughts. um and I know you do too.
Hmm.
But I think it's a testament to you as well that Ms. Laurie is your favorite, because it's the same thing. She took this boy who wasn't hers and basically said, "Yep, you're mine now."
Hmm. Yeah.
um,
Kind of like a certain mom I know.
hmm. Did you have any favorite quotes?
So there was one in the very beginning that was like I can't say it was like a favorite quote, but it was memorable.
Mm-hmm.
I otherwise I really didn't have one. Uh, but it says we cannot escape the nature of man's duality, but we can control its monstrous urges. And I yes, absolutely. That's all I'm gonna say.
I love it. I love it. Um, I actually I had a few.
Oh, nice.
Like by a few, I mean I had like three in that chapter and then a couple in that chapter. And I could have, especially in the beginning, I could have just highlighted the whole book. Um, okay, so I'll say my first one because my first one, this one was like what introduced me to her writing. It was like, oh, okay, this is the caliper we're working with. Um, the sentence says the sound of a man's heart shattering into a million pieces was like the cry of a wounded animal, fear and suffering all mingled together. And then in one section, they were having a conversation, and one character says, I don't think we should measure ourselves by what the world thinks of us. And someone else says, then what do we measure ourselves by? I thought for a moment, I wish you could see yourself through my eyes. And that one little interaction, there was three major themes in that whole conversation, and it was like bam, 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 the way that she wrote it. And like, what do we measure ourselves by? That's an incredible conversation to have. And then also, I wish you could see yourself through my eyes. What an incredible conversation that is to have. Like, what you feel you are versus what the world sees you as, or what those who love you see you as. That was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite is, do you know what it's like to be trapped, to know that you won't be seen or heard, even if you ever worked up the nerve to say something?
Oh,
And
yeah, I
that
remember
hit.
that.
That hit.
Yeah, yeah. There was a lot of good parts. I don't know what was wrong with me this week, but I just couldn't choose anything. Like,
Well, it's hard to choose when they're all bangers.
yeah, her writing was very good. Very good. I
Mhm.
I have no complaints about this book,
Yeah,
except Mr. Carew.
yeah. Yeah, no one likes Mr. Crew.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Um, so My Dear Henry was written by Kalynn Bayron. She is also the author of Cinderella is Dead and This Poison Heart, as well as The Vanquishers, which is a mid-grade series that follows 12-year-old Malika Boog Wilson and her friends as they hunt down vampires to save a missing classmate. She's an award-winning New York Times and indie best-selling author. Her full biography is on her website, KalynBayron.com. KalynNBayron.com. And you can also follow her on Instagram at Kalynn Bayron. Ooh, ooh.
Well,
The 10 out of 10 would recommend.
yeah, definitely recommend. Very, very good book.
Jen, what is next week's book?
So next week we will be reading Grave Matter by Karina Hall.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Devilish Bookworms.
If you want to chat with us, be sure to check us out on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.